Hey there. doing it. We're doing the stream. All right, cool. We got sound, we got video. Welcome to Wednesday. It has been a week in the world, but we're here playing video games. We're enjoying ourselves, hopefully, and yeah, hope your week has been going well so far. And yeah, today I have a 12-year Highland Park Viking Honor single malt on myself after the workday. We had some crazy storms last night. Not really storms, I guess, just wind and rain and stuff. And the power went out for like 6 hours, and it just, with everything else going on in the world, that relatively minor event somehow just spiked my anxiety more than I wanted, and so today's been wobbly, I guess. But we're at the end. We have a calming drink, and we're going to continue with Tyranny here. So where we left off, we were about to have a private conversation with our boss, Tunon, the adjudicator. This is the first time we're meeting him in as far as the game is concerned. I mean, our character has been working for him for quite a long time. But this is the first time we as players are meeting him, and he has an awesome voice, and he hangs out in an awesome room. And we're going to see how this conversation is going to go, because our previous actions have sort of ignited a slight civil war, which is concerning to our boss and his boss, the evil overlord Kairos. So we're gonna be asked about that. In turn, we are also going to be interceding on one of our companions' behalf. His name is Beric. He has magically attached metal armor wrapped around his entire body that he can't take off, and we're going to see if we can get something done about that. So let us load up and see where that goes. I believe we're going to get a new direction in the main quest out of this. I'm guessing. I don't actually know for sure. We also have a piece of the main quest that's telling us to go find various spires throughout the land and take control of them. We gained control of one at the end of the first act of the game. We don't really know what they are, how they work, what their whole deal is, but they're extremely powerful, and we have a quest to go find a second one. So we'll be doing that after we have this conversation with our boss. And yeah, with that, let us get going, I think. I'm just thinking if there's anything else I need to do. We have a new party member. Her name is Ebb. She was fighting for the rebels, but she's come to our side. I'm a little suspicious of her motivations, but we'll see how that all plays out. She's got a whole set of conversations that we'll probably read through here relatively shortly. But again, we will do that after this conversation with our boss. So this guy over here is Tunon. We've seen some cool artwork of him, but this is the first time we've seen him in person. So yeah, let's move on up and have a little chit chat. Was expecting that to trigger automatically, so awkward pause aside, here we go.
This civil war, this feud, is an insult to Kairos' peace. It should not have taken the better part of a year to silence the last vestiges of the Oathbreakers.
Tunon regards you in thoughtful silence. And as always, I will be reading just about all of the text The exceptions are things we've read before, of course, and just the driest of dry lore. I have skipped some of that, but for the most part, we're going to be treating this like an audiobook, and I'll be reading along, and you can listen along. And oh, and a reminder, I am putting all of the VODs of this playthrough on my YouTube channel. The link to that is on my Twitch profile, but it is youtube.com/Sean Beeland. So if you want to get caught up, see what choices I've made to your chagrin, then you can go check those out, and you'll get caught up, hopefully. I've heard this is a short game, relatively speaking, compared to a bunch of big-ass RPGs. But I think this is going to take us a while, so this will just take as many parts as we need, and yeah. So, the Civil War is an insult. I agree, Your Honor.
Our allies squabble while our enemies regroup. It falls upon the court to measure the extent of the damage and to execute the agents of disorder. I suspect that treachery, negligence, disunity, and greed have infected one or both of our esteemed allies. Until you are instructed otherwise, this matter is the court's primary focus.
Okay. So, previously, we were navigating between two factions of Kairos' army, and we ended up siding with one in particular, which precipitated this new civil war. The one that we sided against, the disfavored, they're called, their leader seemed to have been in the process of enacting a truce with some rebels, which is questionable, to say the least. So perhaps we'll be able to investigate that more after this conversation. I don't know.
Graven Ash and the voices of Nerat must be examined in close detail. You are charged with observing the Archons and presenting your case that one of them has wrought chaos and disorder upon the tiers.
Okay, so we will be, figuratively speaking, interrogating both of them, if not literally. Could they both be guilty?
It's possible, but the momentum of the conquest up to this point suggests otherwise. The failure at Vendrian's Well implies a coordinated will behind the chaos. As always, you will be held accountable for what you do in the court's name, but you are free to conduct your investigation in the manner of your choosing. You must expect lies, misdirection, and manipulation. Suffer not such obstructions of justice. They say the voices of Nerat holds you in higher regard than most. Use this alliance to enter his confidence. It seems unlikely the Archon of Secrets is more honest with friends than with rivals, but to his friends, he has been known to divulge much.
The Voices of Nerat is the plural name of a singular being who seemingly holds the minds of many people within him. He is extremely entertaining, which to be honest is a large part of why I sided with him and his Scarlet Chorus. But he is a wily son of a bitch, so it's entirely possible he's manipulating us for his own gain. So we'll see how that goes.
The disfavored will likely be less cooperative with your investigation. They will no doubt assume Graven Ash's honor is beyond reproach, which is all the more reason to scrutinize the Archon of War closely. And if the ironclad forces discourage your inquiry, I charge you to make them talk. Speak their language of battle if you must.
Well, this sounds like a worthy challenge.
Remember, your bloodlust must always be tempered by Kairos' laws. You may defend yourself against the disfavored. Because they are warring with the Scarlet Chorus, you may claim the defense of the Chorus. Your fellow Fatebinders have been busy acting as my eyes and ears. I have a few leads for you to follow. You should, of course, speak with your brothers and sisters of the court if you need further counsel.
So we spoke with our fellow Fatebinders right at the end of the last stream, but it sounds like they might have some more info for us, so we'll swing by there and see what they have to say.
The disfavored have made use of the sage's network of dovecotes and messenger birds as they come under capture. I've heard multiple claims of strategic communications gone missing. The sages are broken, their citadel in flames, but they were not slaughtered to the last. Some of their numbers still congregate around the smoking husk of their burning library. If they have been reading disfavored communications, learn what they learned, then execute them. The Oathbreakers were reported to be using iron armaments, more than they might acquire from looting what few disfavored they killed. Any iron in the tiers not rusted through was made by forge-bound hands in Lethian's Crossing. Between craftsman and quartermaster, someone let iron fall into enemy hands. Investigate this matter and bring the thieves to justice.
There has been this thread of iron falling into enemy hands. Iron in this world can only be created by what they call the Forge-bound, who are mages. So mages can forge iron, and this is my impression is that it is a relatively new technology in this Bronze Age world, and certainly better than anything that most other people have. So the technology and the results of it, iron weapons or iron ore or whatever, iron ingots, are hoarded jealously by our bosses.
There is a final matter to discuss. A sensitive topic.
Though it's impossible to gauge from his expression, Tunon seems more wary than usual. What concerns the court, Your Honor?
In spite of the many shortcomings at Vendrian's Well, you managed to make a name for yourself. You proclaimed an Edict of Kairos, resolved its demanding conditions, and ascended the mountain spire. Any one of these feats would be worthy of recognition by the highest authority. You managed to accomplish 3.
Tunon hovers in observance, awaiting response. I'm not playing my character as some sort of arrogant, jerk. I am playing them as someone sympathetic to the Overlord. I mean, we are playing the bad guys here. We don't really know the Overlord's whole deal, but we've been told they are, the evil tyrant of this world. So we're just kind of going with it. I know you can go against his will to some degree in this game, although I'm not sure to how much. But we're basically a willing collaborator in this case. So I'm trying to use that to inform my choices here. I think I'm going to go with I'm in a privileged position to accomplish incredible deeds.
It pleases me that you grasp your role, as long as you temper it with a sense of duty. Whether by design or by accident, you have captured the attention of Kairos' army and the local tiersmen alike. This is no small opportunity, and the court charges you with exploiting your new standing to its fullest potential.
Okay.
You have a title in our hierarchy. However, it's a little-known secret that one's standing in the world is determined by their infamy, their deeds, and how they come to be known. Mind this notion as you bring justice to this lawless frontier. There may come a time when your deeds speak for you louder than any title.
I'm a little confused that he says it's a little-known secret. I don't know. Maybe the hierarchy of this world is so outwardly rigid that anyone making a name for themselves outside of that hierarchy is noteworthy? I don't know.
Whatever you did to capture the attention of the masses at Vendrian's Well, I would encourage you to do so again.
Hmm. I will be known as a champion of justice. I look forward to chaining chaos to my will. God, that's I don't know. That's quite a thing to say. Or great deeds will define me. Great deeds will define me.
You begin to understand. Whether your acts are favorable or heinous, it falls to you to bring greatness to this campaign. You are dismissed. Should the court have need of your presence, you will receive word. Go forth and do my bidding, and bring glory and honor to the tears in Kairos' name.
Tunon raps his gavel against the floor, the singular note resounding throughout the hall. Okay. Okay, so Beric got a level up, it looks like. He's the companion who we want to have a discussion with Tunon about. So, let's go ahead and level Beric up. We could just keep pumping points into his health. Could try to boost his strength. I mean, just general resolve would certainly be a good thing for him. Maybe we'll just keep his might even with his vitality for now. Okay, sure. And let's see what fun abilities we can give him. The abilities in this game have been the most agonizing part of leveling up in the best way. It's just they're all good, and I want all of them, but I can't have all of them. Man, these are all good. Like, just boost your damage. Gain a chance to attack enemies as they engage you. And of course, you can taunt enemies. Beric is our tank, so you taunt enemies to attack you. So, as they engage you, I could get an extra chance that he'll just whack him, you know? Fierce demeanor. Enemies near Beric will just have their resolve reduced. This is all good stuff. The one thing that has been underwhelming, I guess, about his abilities is that he can taunt enemies, but only a few, and seemingly only for a few seconds, relative to the length of the battle. So I'm tempted to just give him this skill that just further increases the number of enemies that he can taunt. Hey, Dentalis. He's better offense. Well, we've definitely been going down the route of defense with him. So I am torn, but and certainly as far as his attributes go, we've been boosting his strength or his might, I guess. We just put a point into his might, so maybe we'll just maybe we will do the gain a chance to attack as they engage you. Just get some extra damage in there. It seems like the faster you can kill an enemy, the better, is my vague feeling on this game so far, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so our next step, I think, is to talk with Tunon about Beric in particular and his whole armor situation.
Will do.
Hope your week is going alright, Den. You return. It is gratifying to see that the war has not caused you to forget your roots. What is it you wish to know? Ooh. Let's interrogate him first, and then we'll talk about Barrick. Tell me about Kairos. Kairos is our overlord. She ushers us from the brink of chaos with a stern hand and gestures to the way of peace. We are only too eager to follow in her perfect example. How old is Kairos? By our reckoning, her age upon Terratus is magnificent. Her true span defies measurement by our limited construct of time. It would be a waste to spend our few pitiable years attempting to solve that riddle of existence. It's an interesting answer. Sounds more like Kairos is some sort of god. I don't know. Certainly, in effect, she seems that way. What is your relationship to Kairos? She is my master, and I her dutiful pupil. In this respect, you and I are no different. I have the honor of Kairos' confidence. She trusts me to enact her law upon the boundless territory of her rule. I am only too grateful to serve. I am the voice of Kairos' will, the harbinger of her judgment, and the arm of her justice. Do you think Kairos' laws are fair? I've gained wrath. Our boss didn't like that. That is an irrelevant question. Kairos' law. It is the responsibility of fairness to conform to Kairos' definition of it, and anyone who believes otherwise is an agent of anarchy, alright? Definitely a tyrant. Contemplate this as you deliver Kairos' peace to the frontier. If you fail to understand the importance and immutability of Kairos' law, then your work is but a perversion of justice. I couldn't help but notice that you refer to Kairos as a woman. More wrath. Beware of that trajectory of thought. Save for her perfection, there is little about Kairos to which we could ascribe recognizable attributes. A power as distant and unknowable as the Overlord should transcend our petty dualities. Okay. Male, female, it makes no difference. Kairos is mother to us all. Interesting. Ask, but be cautious with your time. Tears do not rest. Alright, tell me about Blooded Mark. He is my headsman and an assassin without equal. His official designation in Kairos' hierarchy is the Archon of Shadows, though I wonder that he ever considers himself aught but a slayer of the unjust. How did he earn his title? His work away from the court takes Blooded Mark to the dark places of the world, the Tiers and Northern Empire alike. Over time, Shadows became his dominion. They cloak him, protect him, and even fight for him if the need arises. It is said that Blooded Mark can travel to any place where shadows are cast. Only he would know this for certain. Does Blooded Mark serve you alone? Your question is flawed. We are all servants of Kairos. The Archons are also agents of their own interests, those chosen few empowered to bring order to the world in accordance with Kairos' peace. At present, Blooded Mark is my vassal, and I his patron. The relationship is not so different from Graven Ash and Cairn, the fallen Archon, or the voices of Nerat and his songbird, Siren. Okay, that actually clarifies things for me a little bit, as far as Cairn and his relationship to Graven Ash, and now, Blooded Mark and Tunon here. So even among the Archons, there's a bit of a hierarchy. Previously to this, I sort of thought they were all at the same level to one another, but that is not the case. Such partnerings and apprenticeships are common. They provide mutual benefit to the Archons involved, as well as a measure of oversight. I'm curious about you, Archon. Curiosity is not a trait that I encourage in my servants. Too often have I witnessed such activity leading down a path to lawlessness. I feel like there's an interesting backstory there. However, if you feel that a better understanding of me will inform your work, then I will allow it. What would you know? Okay, tell me about your rise to become Adjudicator. Curb your ambitions, student. My path to this dais is not one that could be replicated under any circumstances. However, if your curiosity is determined, I will tell you my story. Some interesting choices here. We could cry forgiveness, which I don't think is necessary here. If your story can teach me nothing of power, then I'm not interested, which kind of a dick response. I don't think I'll go with that. I wish to understand law and your execution of it, which I feel like that would be a pleasing response for Tunon. Or we can say my sage friend here would add it to his chronicle that others might learn from it, which feels like a dicey response. I don't know how he would take that, or knowing that somebody is recording it. um, let's go with lore. I wish to understand law and your execution of it. An admirable pursuit. You know much of Kairos' law and the maintenance of order already. My history may tell you something of how it can be used to win wars. I came into the world centuries ago, before the dream of a unified Northern Empire was fully realized. My home country lay far from the borders of Kairos' realm, and our conquest was a matter of distant speculation. Decades before the rumor of Kairos' approach grew in panicked volume, I familiarized myself with the intricacies of her law. It took me no time at all to realize the benefits of our inevitable subjugation. Okay. I took it upon myself to rise in my country's governance as an arbiter of law and drafter of covenants, building some notoriety for my execution of fair justice. As my influence and the trust of my people evolved, my decisions transcended to define future precedents. You can say on second thought I've heard enough, but no, we'll say go on. What my countrymen could not have surmised was that I had woven into our customs the very backbone of Kairos' law. I set the stage for the conquest of our floundering nation to join the Overlord's empire. So this dude was like a true, not was, he is a true believer. Uh, Whatever it was he saw in Kairos' laws and approach, he was here for it, and just steered his nation straight into Kairos' arms, it sounds like. By the time the Overlord's armies presented themselves and offered terms of surrender, we had adopted Kairos' peace in all but name. Our absorption into the Northern Empire was a matter of legal formality, negligible changes to our already beloved document of law. The people credited me as the architect of peace, and for a time called me Tunon the Fair. As my importance grew in their estimate, Kairos could not help but learn of the part I played in her bloodless victory. Kairos' law has a breadth of intricacies that is unapproachable to the masses. I was chosen to interpret and represent the Overlord's will across the Northern Empire and beyond, this time as adjudicator. It is my pride, my duty, and my life. So there's no turning this guy, uh, is my interpretation of this. Not that I was really interested in doing so, but what does it mean to be an Archon? I am a figure of power and significance, and under Kairos' mandate, I am able to exercise my authority for the benefit of all. Had I not earned the Overlord's approval, I would not stand tall before you. Did you come into power yourself, or did Kairos foster your talents? An astute question. Doubtless I exhibited some spark of potential on my own, insignificant, though enough to accomplish deeds of note. Only under Kairos' tutelage have I grown to these heights. I wonder if he means after the conquest, or during? Could anyone become an Archon? Absolutely not. Only a precious few grow into this authority. Were it otherwise, Terratus would descend into pandemonium. Of those few who rise into power, fewer still have the self-control to make lawful use of their talents, and of those who can, fewer still are deemed worthy of Kairos' approval. Is every Archon subservient to Kairos? All are subservient to Kairos, but I intuit your meaning. The Overlord takes great pains to recognize potential. Before an Archon comes into their power, they will have faced the harshest scrutiny by an agent of recruitment, if not Blood and Mark himself. Those who are found worthy of incredible deeds, but refuse to join their strength to the needs of the Empire, are doomed to die. Those who wish to make a name for themselves are invited into the fold, to serve and rule the needs of the Empire. That is the price of power in Kairos' hierarchy. I'm still pretty curious about the Archons and how they sort of invent or discover magic in general. What's the deal with your mask? I should have known that would gain wrath. This should be obvious to you by now, student. Since the answer is relevant to your duties, I will tolerate your ignorance and explain. He face palmed. Oh, very good. The face is an uncontrollable warren of muscle spasms and reactionary contortions, sickening in its display of every petty bias. It cannot be trusted to audience or judge a dispute without navigating a gauntlet of subjectivity for all to witness. Okay, I don't quite follow that, but alright. Go on. I think I've heard enough crazy talk. We won't go that route. In my early days, before the Northern Empire spread to my lands, I fashioned the mask of listening out of stern, uncaring wood. This expression of enduring patience hearkens the testimony of my petitioners, taking in all evidence before weighing matters in their due course. Later in my career, Kairos herself gifted me the Mask of Resolve. You will find it almost identical to the Mask of Listening, save for my brow furrowed in contemplation and weighed down by the burden of judgment. This is the face that dispenses law, often the most exacting and unforgiving sort. I wore it when I brought Kairos' devastating judgment to the bastard city, and doubtless I will wear it again. Does the Mask of Resolve grant you the power of judgment? An astute question. Kairos would certainly be within her authority to grant me the function to do extraordinary deeds. But no, the mask is a symbol. Justice itself grants me power. An objective ruling is its own consent to enact incredible wonders. Such is the right as my archon of law. When I recognize a jurisprudent need, there is nothing I cannot do. What an interesting form of magic. I'm kind of interpreting that as magic. I wore it when Kairos' devastating judgment to the bastard city, and doubtless I will wear it again. What do you look like underneath the mask? I feel like more wrath is incoming. Tunon hovers in silence, staring down at you. Your Honor? The shadows wreathing Tunon's feet whip about like waves in a storm, ebbing and flowing in her direction. An unmistakable air of danger fills the room. Your Honor? The question is irrelevant. Justice is ageless, sexless, devoid of opinion other than the right or wrong. A face is extraneous to the function of law. Move on from this line of questioning, Fatebinder. It will do you no good. Okay, let's return to my other, less awkward questions. I think that would be best. Did you come up with the office of Fatebinders? Indirectly, yes. Just as I am the representative of Kairos' law across Terratus, you are the face of my judgment for the people. I took inspiration from the Overlord's example, as we all should. The people need an approachable face to settle their grievances, and I am not available to adjudicate on every sharecropper's dispute. The Fatebinders were an inevitable solution. Why is curiosity such a problem? Seems like a pretty curious question if you ask me. Because my vassals are not selected for their independence of thought. You are an agent of law, the execution of which falls within strict confines. Your intellect may aid the tasks ahead of you, but your unwavering obedience is of greater value to me. I understand. You want a mindless drone. You flatter me, Archon. Don't you want me to interpret Kairos' laws to fit any circumstance? I think we know the answer to that is no. We'll just go ahead and say, I understand, Archon. Be sure that you do. Alright, previous questions. I wish to speak about matters of law. Then you are well situated, for my court is the legal heart of this corrupt and uncivilized realm. What matters draw your curiosity? You are already well versed in Kairos' laws, but I am happy to discuss the particulars. Let's take another drink before we dive into this. The whiskey may be affecting the choices I'm making at the moment, but I think that's fine. I wish to discuss Kairos' peace. The cornerstone of our wartime efforts, of course. Kairos' peace guarantees all willing supplicants under the Overlord's authority a place in her world. The exact wording of the bylaw is, your life is not yours to discard. The Overlord has plans for you. This guarantees all willing supplicants a place in her world. Your life is not yours to discard. The Overlord has plans for you. Vaguely comforting, also vaguely unsettling. This extends to several spheres of influence. Among others, it grants protection to enemies who surrender in a time of war, and it forbids suicide. To dispense with the Overlord's vassal and property is prohibited. Interesting. Remind me how the Overlord's name may be used. It is not forbidden to cross one's tongue with Kairos' name, but it behooves one to use caution and respect. The Overlord's name is not yours to give, whether to progeny, product, location, or abstraction. Slander of the Overlord is punishable by death. So, the latter, slander, obviously punishable by death. I mean, that's just how it goes. Do not use the Overlord's name to sell your startup or your cool new product. That's a no-no. Don't take the Overlord's name in vain, basically. There is only one Kairos, and her name is safeguarded. No one may say Kairos and have it obfuscated by a second meaning. The ultimate trademark. Neither will her name be associated to trivialities. A gambler will not attribute his fortune to Kairos' luck, or his misfortune to Kairos' scorn. Such an association lowers the Overlord in the public estimate, and is rightly considered slander most foul. Interesting. Okay, let us discuss the old walls. The old walls are forbidden, as are their contents and their denizens. Owning any item from the old walls is considered trespass, regardless of how it came into your possession. Mind that in the course of your travels. Alright, good to know. Don't, whip out an old wall sword in front of Tunon, basically, is what it sounds like. As the old walls extend across much of the tiers and Northern Empire alike, Kairos permits her servants to pass only where she has sculpted the landscape to permit traverse. Under no circumstances are you to enter a breach in the old walls, even for a task as innocent as crossing to the other side. They're just really building up these old walls and Bane creatures. I'm looking forward to finally running into them. If these restrictions seem too severe, I would remind you that they are for the protection of Kairos' subjects. The Overlord has no desire to see harm needlessly inflicted upon her loyal followers. Remind me of the magician's folly. Practitioners of the arcane arts must be sanctioned by one of Kairos' guilds, such as the Blood Chanters or Forgebound. Rogue magicians with a tenuous grasp of unknown powers will not be tolerated. Ebb lowers her gaze to the ground, thumbing the cords of her bandolier in a thinly veiled attempt to appear uninvolved in the discussion. So long as your Tidecaster remains your deputy, she will have the protection of the court, but not a moment longer. I must allow you to have the most fearsome agents at your side to dispense justice, but you remain culpable for her actions. Alright, good to know. Huh, so if I start fondling that tall slab of handsome over there, you're the one guilty of molesting him. I can live with this. She points to Nunaval, who shuffles nervously at Ebb's glance. Who is Nunaval? Is he one of... Maybe he's one of these fate binders over here, I don't remember. Let's glare silently. A sanctioned mage whose spellcasting causes damage to life or property is lawfully deemed innocent. As long as they practice their art in the service of Kairos, all is forgiven. Good to know. Right, let's speak of quotas and sharing. The harvest blooms and blights by the will of Kairos. In times of lean, you will be fed. In times of wealth, you will feed others. This law is a sizable category unto itself, serving many needs at once, trade and tax being only two examples. The broadest intent of the law is to empower Kairos' subjects to care for their neighbor and expect care in return. You might take note of the law's application to trade. A merchant's right to peddle their wares is defined by permits granted annually. The regional authority has the right to decide if a merchant sells cabbage one year and sandals the next. Anyone breaking through their restrictions is subject to immediate forfeiture of all assets. You need not concern yourselves over the nuances, at least until they apply to this contested realm in a time of peace. I'm curious about the restrictions on forbidden knowledge. Kairos herself sets the standards of what can and cannot be known. These restrictions are rarely enforced, but they are worth taking into account. During the war, for example, Kairos deemed the knowledge of the Vellum Citadel taboo. No one may possess the wisdom of that fallen repository, save Kairos herself. Calling it all taboo seems a bit like overkill, but to play Kairos' advocate, the world would hardly be safer if all had access to the lore of making poisons or the art of arming brigands in fine bronze. This is for the protection of her subjects. Before the coming of Kairos, during the ages of anarchy and discord, powerful knowledge in undeserving hands leveled empires without thought or mercy. Kairos has no desire to revisit those dark times. Am I beholden to these laws? I would think so. That should not be in question. We are all subjects of Kairos. Her laws define and regulate our very way of life. With that said, as an agent of law, you are granted more leeway than a soldier or citizen. You may find yourself compelled to commit morally questionable acts in the name of Kairos. If it serves the court's justice, much may be forgiven. So the rules don't apply to you so long as you are enforcing them on someone else? I want your job. If the court finds any of your actions suspect, we will summon you to answer for yourself. Your testimony will be heard and judgment rendered. You are exceedingly curious about the application of Kairos' law. I find it refreshing that you would seek my counsel, Fateminder. Alright. Okay, so that's Kairos, or that's Tunon and his background. So let's talk about Barrick. And what does Barrick of the Stone Shields want of the court? He has made his displeasure known in a loud enough voice to collapse the tiers upon each other. The adjudicator glares down at Barrick. I forgot or missed that Barrick has been asking to have his armor removed for a while, apparently. He came to inquire if the Forgebound could help remove his armor. If he has become encased in iron, that is none of the court's concern. My forge-bound smiths are occupied crafting weapons for the army, and I would not have their focus diverted to liberate one soldier from his raiment. Stone Shield, do the disfavored not have standards for the upkeep of arms and armor? Is this not one of your Archon's guiding principles? It is, Your Honor, but I found myself trapped in this junk pile after the Edict of Storms hit Stalwart. If you want to blame anyone, it should be Kairos. Yikes. The adjudicator contemplates the matter in total silence. The moment drags on far longer than you would suspect it warrants, but Tunon's interest does not abate for a moment. The soldier will remain encased in his armor, eccentric though it may be, and all subjects of Kairos are forbidden to aid in its removal. Magic the like of which none of us understand has touched the stone shield, and we will not interfere with the will of Kairos. But, I'm trapped. Barrick trails off, looking to you for answers. We're gonna say nothing. Such is the will of Kairos, and the will of the court. Tunon nods and bangs his gavel. Ah, you tried. And I suppose that counts for something. The adjudicator didn't say anything about me bending my way out of here, at least. Not that trying has ever made it better. Then be on your way. Okay. So, next step then is to talk to Barrick. Let's save and see what he has to say. Oh, right. Only the slightest nod of Barrick's domed helm offers any indication that the soldier noticed your approach. Didn't turn out like you hoped, did it? On the contrary, I expected little else from the court. The Archon's decision changes nothing. I have persevered to this point. I shall continue to do so, for the sake of General Ash and the North. Um, that sounded very convincing. He stares at you, saying nothing. Well, we tried. Your master was very specific in his sentence. He forbade not only assistance from the Forgebound, but from anyone, anywhere in the world. So we could be legalistic about our response. No, the Archon forbade any subject of Kairos to aid you. We could say something vague about, oh, maybe it'll work out some other way. Or we can just say, if your honor demands you remain in the armor you'll remain. We'll go with number 3. It does. Thank you for understanding. You gained loyalty with Barrick. He bows his head to you and moves away, trailing behind him the wafting reek of a fetid privy. Yeah, that pretty much confirms the boots filled with shit theory that I've been running with this entire time. And yet the quest is still open. Enlist the aid of a Forgebound not subject to Kairos' law. And we have a new ability. Let's see here, Barrick. He is fearfully loyal to us. So we recently gained the ability to this Blade Graves Grasp, which traps nearby enemies in twisted spires of rock, petrifying them for a short time. So that's cool. We've had that for a little bit. But we just earned this new one called Iron Storm. Swords and javelins emerge from Barrick's armor and fly into a cloud of iron above the Fatebinder. These weapons begin to rain down in a storm around the Fatebinder, damaging enemies nearby. That is amazing. I love that. Alright. Okay, so we just saved. Let's take a look at our journal here. So we need to gather evidence about the Archons who are wrapped up in this civil war. It's interesting that some of the choices we've made before count as evidence against the voices of Nerat or the Scarlet Chorus. And apparently, so far, there is no evidence against Graven Ash and the Disfavored. Interesting. Okay, so we could go speak with the voices of Nerat. I mean, that is a choice. We could just go talk to him directly next. And then, of course, we've got the spires to investigate and unlock, which I'm thinking I'm going to do first. These spires are very mysterious, very powerful, and I'm definitely interested in learning more about them. So I think I will lean towards going to Lethian's Crossing, of which we are the governor, I believe, and poking around there, seeing what quests we can get, that kind of thing. Before we do that, we were going to go talk to
Yes.
these other Fatebinders. Oh, it's neat that they all split up to get there. It appears poor Barrick is stuck. Alright, let's just have a quick chat with all of these guys real quick. We speak again, so let us speak genuinely and at length with one another. Now, of what matter would you have us discuss? The Fatebinder rubs his fingers along the edge of his jaw, regarding you with interest. Okay, he has nothing new to say, so that is alright with me. Regards, Iron Fist, you look as if you need something. Also, what can I do for you? Calio touches a gentle hand to your soldier. That kind of creeps me out a little bit. And what about you? Fatebinder, you return. Okay, so nothing new. Apparently, we've already learned all we can from these guys. That is all the whiskey for tonight. Sadly, but perhaps for the best for this kind of game. There's something called Aurora. Oh, this is this woman here. Okay, I was just confused by the placement of the tag. Okay, we've talked with all these people. We've talked with these two. I don't believe we talked with this person named Lady Lucretius. So let's do that. This well-dressed older woman stands apart from the milling crowds of nobles. She stares off into the distance, oblivious to your approach until you're right in front of her. Oh, greetings! She offers a reserved smile. Anda Lucretius, formerly of Thistleholm. You have the look of someone who belongs here. A Fatebinder, no doubt? She nods. Do you need something from me? I don't know. You were just a named NPC. I figured you had something for me. What are all of these nobles doing in Tunon's court? She smirks and shakes her head. Trying to look brave, I warrant. But if you crane an ear to any of their conversations, you'll hear a different tale. 3 years since Tunon set up shop in the Bastard City. We're still getting used to our new masters and figuring out what we can and can't ask of them. She nods to the assembled nobles. These are smart, ring-plenty folk. The way they approach Tunon, you'd think they were raised under a tyrant's lash. Some have come to settle a grievance, others to pledge fealty. I've been standing around long enough to know that the adjudicator doesn't care for empty gestures. How has the Bastard City fared since the conquest? I'm remembering now that there's supposedly a whole city here, and I'm wondering if we'll be able to explore it a bit. Kairos' forces took the city as we expected them to, without mercy or restraint. The Scarlet Chorus spilled more blood than we had to give. We had to tighten our belts when the army replenished their supplies from our farms and caravans. After our surrender, Tunon was kind enough to order grain hauled from the north. That earned him a lot of favor. We've suffered our share of hardships, but it seems that Kairos wants us alive. That's a more generous outcome than some of us were led to believe. What brings a noble like yourself to Tunon's court? A frown cracks her pleasant demeanor. Like the rest of the frightened inbreds here, I came to see Tunon and ask him to right a wrong. My manor was destroyed during the conquest. I told the adjudicator my woes, but we didn't exactly see eye to eye. Tell me of yourself. I'm the daughter of a noble house. We were wealthy enough to live in the city, but our means beyond that were limited. My mother dealt in fish, textiles, and bronze. By the time I inherited, the business was taking care of itself. She sighs. Of course all of that has changed. Thistleholm is no more, and my name has none of its former weight. Even if we were still in business, Kairos' laws would stifle our trading rights. Perhaps it's better that way. Among other things, Kairos' laws of quota and sharing meticulously regulates tradable goods. Permits are issued to deserving merchants on an annual basis, but their allowances circulate by a design known only to Kairos and Tunon. A former wool peddler may be restricted to selling only copper, and the subsequent year trade fresh vegetables. Interesting. very random. I don't know how that possibly works. Okay, what is Thistleholm? A great sigh deflates her. It was my family's ancestral hall. The oldest stones dated back to the years when the bastard city was naught but a dozen roofs and wagons clustering for warmth. Compared to the houses of the great lords, it was nothing special. Age softened the wood, and its queer placement in the warehouse district set it apart from the finer grounds where lords and ladies strolled for amusement. It was a mess, but our mess all the same. I would invite you over for tea, something stronger even, but it would only disappoint. You'll find naught here but a gaping hole. What happened? Collateral damage happened. When the adjudicator cast his judgment on the bastard city, he destroyed the districts of the corrupt merchant kings, their manors, their counting houses, and yes, their warehouses. Aged, dignified Thistleholm collapsed as a massive sinkhole opened under her foundation. The bastard city's laws may not have been perfect by Kairos' standards, but my family followed them with respect and never took a copper ring more than we deserved. I can't help but feel that my estate was not the criminal Tunon had in mind during his sentencing. So what are you going to do next? That's the question, isn't it? I appealed to the adjudicator, thinking he would see reason. After considering my case for all of 8 seconds, he ordered me a belt of rings and a plot of land on the outskirts of the city. Tunon told me to build anew and start farming. Farming! Can you believe that? She shakes her head. It's not even that I'm opposed to the labor, but we're in a war. I can't have the Scarlet Chorus breathing down my neck, raiding my crops, and Kairos knows what else. Okay, so how are we going to respond to this? We are, after all, on Tunos' wavelength and side. Tunon's word is Kairos' law, whether you think it fair or not. Or Kairos' laws are made to serve the masses, not the individual, which, based on what I've heard so far, I would agree with. Stop whining and take your rings, or the Scarlet Chorus are dogs. I suggest you use those rings to hire protection. We're going to go with Kairos' laws are made to serve the masses, not the individual. I can appreciate that, especially when there's suffering or corruption on a grand scale. It all makes sense on parchment, doesn't it? She glances to the left and right with unease. I come from a long line of smart, ring-savvy merchants, but even I can't reconcile Tunon's justice with Kairos' law. There's something wrong about it all. Maybe Tunon knows something I don't, or maybe... She trails off, shaking her head in doubt. What do you mean? People come here for justice. They usually get a version of it, but it's Tunon's version, not theirs. Half of the time, they don't even get what they wanted out of a ruling in their favor. She shakes her head. The deed to a farm, for instance. Not to put my own ignorance on display, but if more people knew how Kairos' laws worked, they might not come here seeking a ruling at all, even a fair one. Tunon is a servant of law, but he's the overlord's vassal as much as any of us. Sometimes it seems like he uses his position to twist everything in the Empire's favor. We're just pieces on a board, and he can move us wherever the law justifies that we stand. That doesn't sound, well, legal. The last one is very interesting. We can say fascinating. Now, how much is my silence worth to you, ungrateful one? Not really how I've been playing my character so far, but a fun choice. Yeah, okay, we can say Kairos defines the law. We shouldn't question it. We can say Tunon isn't one to change his mind. The ruling stands, learn to live with it. Life sucks. You should know better than to speak ill of the adjudicator in my presence, which is scary. Or I can only endeavor to bring true justice to the tears. I'm pretty torn on what to choose here. Isn't it interesting how no matter the RPG, you want to help the person that you're speaking with? At least that's how I feel. Even if it's so hard for me to play like an evil character, but this game, it's like you are working for the tyrant, and yet I still want to like be helpful and like cheer people up. trying to break myself of the habit a little bit in this game. But at the same time, I'm leaning towards just saying I can only endeavor to bring true justice to the tears. Kind of non-committal, but it's not like dismissive necessarily. At least one of Kairos' agents has their heart in it. I'm still holding out hope that the tears are left standing after this war, and that Kairos' peace makes something great of us. A lady can hope, can't she? Farewell, Fatebinder. Be well. Interesting. I don't know if anything will, like, come out of that conversation exactly, but it was an interesting bit of world building, I suppose. Any petitioners that displeased Tunon would meet their fate in the pits below the court. Yeah, that's scary. That is scary. Alright, let's head out and see where we can even go at this point. Oh, cutscene time. Blood and Mark, the one we've heard so much about. Welcome back, kid. Amusing as it would have been to watch the edict drop, I guess I'm glad you lived. Blood and Mark, the Archon of Shadows, rouses from a faraway stare, turning to face you with a wry smile. Though he stands still, he seems to sift in and out of the shadows that shroud him. He's not a fan of us. Sided with the Scarlet Chorus. Huh. You like secrets and trickery. The Archon gives you a long stare, punctuated at the end with a short sneer. What's it to you, Archon of the Elderly? As a player, I'm not personally feeling, like, against the Archon of Shadows, necessarily. But maybe I can just glare silently. You gained favor. Ah, silence, the first recourse when you've got something to hide. I imagine you're off to meet with the voices for, well, whatever it is he has in mind. But first, you and I need to have a little chat. Let's continue glaring silently. Everyone's keeping an eye on you, because you did something nobody has done before. Got a guess as to what that might be? Oh, so the spires are up the old walls specifically. I didn't realize that. I'm the first person to take an evasive stance against your rhetorical questions. I don't know what to choose here. I'm the first to resolve an edict before its consequences came to pass? Well, we know that's not true based on our conversations with Lantry previously. The first Fatebinder to awaken a spire of the old walls? I mean, as far as we know, that's true, but could not be true. I don't know. We could just be consistent with the silent glaring, of course. Let's go with awaken a spire of the old walls. You gained favor. You're not wrong. That was definitely a shock, but I doubt it's the sole reason you've made the tears tremble. Proclaiming an edict isn't new. Neither is surviving or resolving the commandments of an edict. But you're the first to proclaim and resolve the very same edict, and it didn't kill you. You're the first to proclaim and resolve the very same edict, and it didn't kill you. Okay, interesting. In one fell swoop, you survived your second edict, resolved the very one you had proclaimed, and woke an arcane structure that had slept for several centuries. And now I go on your short list of people who stand out as potential problems? More or less. Mostly more. He offers you a dangerous grin. I don't care what you do with the information, but you should know the danger you're in now that you've put yourself on the map. When you're dealing with voices, don't forget that he'll be doing everything he can to figure out what makes you different, and how he can use it for his own gain. Wait, there's still so much I want to ask you. Let's just go with until the next. The Archon of Shadows shrugs to you in farewell, but his golden eyes are alight with interest as he watches you. I'm glad we got to meet him. They were talking him up quite a bit, and I feel like he lived up to the rumors a little bit. Okay, let's head out. So it doesn't look like we can go anywhere in the Bastard City at this point. So, okay, we just unlocked Cacophony, but I don't want to go there yet. I'm going to go to Sunset Spire, which is the next spire, which we have to unlock, I suppose. And specifically, Lethian's Crossing. So, wow, these spires are ginormous. I mean, we kind of knew that from being a top one earlier, but you know, this is the town of Lethian's Crossing, and towering above it is this gigantic tower. So that just gives a fun sense of scale of things, even if it is stylized a bit. But okay. Presumably we will have some encounter along the way, but let's see how it goes. Ambush! A group of mercenaries, members of the Bronze Brotherhood, are blocking the road to Lethian's Crossing. This is a decently sized map compared to some of the other random encounters we've had. So we're going to quick save for now. And I guess just head west. Maybe we'll head up this path here. Well, there's some folks down here and up here. Nobody so far is really responding. Well, let's talk to this guy named Welby. This woman named Welby. A tall woman stands here, surveying the area from a small overlook. She glances at you and immediately goes back to watching her surroundings. Welcome to Ironhall Trail, Fatebinder of Tunon. She salutes you. My name is Welby, first axe for the Bronze Brotherhood, though I'm not sure that title matters anymore. She pauses to gather her thoughts, then opens her mouth to continue. Instead, she exhales slowly and shakes her head. Never mind, you needn't be burdened with my problems. Let's review who the Bronze Brotherhood are first. The Bronze Brotherhood is a mercenary company from the free cities dotting the Tyr's southern coast. Many of these mercenary companies were employed by Kairos' agents and slaughtered during the war. The Bronze Brotherhood survived thanks to their relatively safe posting at Lethian's Crossing, where the Voices of Nerat hired the company to help protect the town's forge operation. Among the most trained and dedicated warriors of the Tyrs, the Bronze Brotherhood have a reputation for ruthlessness and tenacity. Aggression and decisive thinking are so highly prized by the Brotherhood that the violent, enigmatic Scourge is the group's mascot, a creature most decent folk consider the stuff of nightmares. The term brother is used for mercenaries of both genders, as the company's title harkens back to the archaic notion of living as men. In Tyr's custom, this amounts to releasing all claims to lands, to better assure an employer that the Brotherhood won't covet the realms they're paid to protect. So, in the past, they've worked with the overlord. So they're not immediately against us, as far as we know. But okay, let's continue. While I appreciate you coming to me before speaking to Raytoman, you will need to be careful. He has of late been acting out of sorts, and any perceived slight can become a problem for the one who offends him. Choose your words with him carefully. It's a nice warning. What can I help you with? How could talking to you offend Raytoman? You chose to speak to the first axe before speaking to the actual first brother, the bodyguard before the leader. How could this mean anything but collusion and treason? I know I speak out of turn, but I only wish to warn you. Tread lightly around Raytoman. Tell me about the Bronze Brotherhood. Welby laughs a little. We're mercenaries, plain and simple. I'm not going to pretend like it's anything more. While it's true we have in recent years been a little more stationary than your typical crew, it doesn't change the fact that our services can be purchased if the price is right. We both know full well that we both know full well that the rings that the voices gave us were the only thing that brought our allegiance to Kairos when the Overlord turned an eye to the crossing. Even if our thanks for helping was to be thrown from our homes. She contemplates you for a moment. Not that I hold any ill will toward you for it. Decisions have to be made, and there's always someone who must pay the price. I just hope you realize some people don't like being asked to pay. Raytoman will try to sell you on our long and noble traditions, like we're some kind of altruistic saints who can do no wrong. But that story is as old and smelly as Grandma Beastman's tail hairs. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not going to take a job that doesn't seem right to me, but a ring's a ring, and I will go where the money leads me. One point Raytoman and I will agree on is this. We did a job for Kairos, but we were not treated fairly. The Brotherhood is strong, and we have the numbers. We will fight to the last man. I just don't agree with Raytoman's methods. What does it mean to be First Axe? She sighs. I wish I knew, Fatebinder. The First Axe protects and consults with the First Brother. I am supposed to be Raytoman's advisor, confidant, and guard. Lately his behavior has become erratic. He's acting paranoid, manic, and distrustful. My duty as First Axe is to protect the First Brother, but I am also sworn to protect the Brotherhood, and if that means the removal of Raytoman, so be it. He has too many supporters in Lethian's Crossing right now to speak out against him. I wonder if this will be a plot thread in once we get to Lethian's Crossing. So what do you think has happened to Raytoman? Honestly, I couldn't speak to the cause. The stress of leadership, the battles with Kairos' forces, his night in the Old Walls? That's interesting. She shrugs. When he decided to remove the Brotherhood from the crossing, it certainly set him off. Does it matter? His behavior is endangering the Brotherhood, and he must be stopped before we are destroyed. I fear people will be hurt by far more than a simple toll. Okay, so this sounds like your classic bandits, extracting a toll from travelers kind of thing? I'm not sure. So how would you run the Brotherhood? I wouldn't waste time and resources on petty vendettas, that much I can tell you. I like battle, and I like rings, and with the Brotherhood we used to get both regularly. Now all we have is fear, suspicion, and blood. I want the disciplined regiment back, and I intend to have it. While I may agree that we were treated unjustly, Raytoman's methods for obtaining restitution are despicable. True, acting like a child when you don't get what you want is not the behavior of a leader. Except in this case, the child is in control of an army capable of laying waste to his home. Okay, that's all for now. By your leave, Fatebinder, and be careful. Alright, let's quick save one more time. Got something to loot over here. Ooh, we got a scroll sigil. Great. A potion of staggering burn. Plus 40 armor stolen after 30 seconds. Okay, cool. And then bronze throwing dagger. Okay, well we want to take this for our main character, and I guess we'll take that potion. The throwing dagger. I guess how does that compare? It just doesn't compare at all. Alright, we'll just dump this in the stash, because there's no use for it otherwise. Got a couple other named NPCs down here, but not the guy named Ray Toman yet. So let's poke around, see if there are any hidden stashes about.
Sorry, I can't.
And fill in the map while we're able, because I cannot abide
Sorry,
a map
I can't.
that isn't quite filled in
Can't
all
do
the way.
that. Can't do that.
Okay, there's Ray Toman. And some bodies, it looks like. Okay, Aster. This guy is named Aster here. A small figure stands before some armor-clad soldiers. His arms move wildly as he gestures in frustration, yelling at the man directly in front of him. Absolutely not. I've come through Ironhall Trail more times than I can remember. No one has ever asked for a toll before, and I won't be paying one now. He notices you standing nearby and turns to speak. Fatebinder, surely you, of all people, can help me. My name is Aster, and I must get to Lethian's Crossing. I have goods to deliver. Tell this man I will not be paying a toll, to him or anyone, and he is to let me through. He folds his arms over his chest and nods with a pronounced finality. Greetings, Fatebinder. I'm sorry you have been drawn into this. What you stumbled into here is merely a conflict of the changing times. I am Will of the Bronze Brotherhood. Ironhall Trail is under our protection, and anyone passing through must obey our rules. If this gentleman would like passage through our land, a simple donation is required. He holds out his hand. These funds help our cause and keep Ironhall a safe place for all travelers. Clearly, you both can see the value in that. Aster speaks, his arms swinging about again, emphasizing his words. And who exactly is keeping it safe? You, standing there with your weapons at the ready against me? His arms drop and he turns to you again. I'm not but a traveling merchant. I have no money to spare, and I certainly pose no threat to anyone. Keep this area safe indeed. He points at Will. You are the only threat here. Fatebinder, please, talk some sense into this man. Okay, so we could just pay the toll. We could address Will and say, this man will not be paying a toll today. Call your guards off. Just because you passed through before means nothing. Pay the toll now or head back. Or this matter is a waste of my time. You're on your own, merchant. So I believe the Bronze Brotherhood is a faction that we will need to deal with extensively as the game goes on. Just based on the fact that they show up in our reputation tab as a major faction. What I'm wondering is if we should pay the toll now, just to help Aster get on his way here. And that might prevent us from antagonizing Ray Toman further before we talk to him. What have you thought of Tunon so far? Well, I really like his voice. I mean, that's just a really cool effect that they gave him. He's an interesting character for sure. He certainly presents himself as, the ultimate arbiter of fair justice, right? But I am curious to know just how blind he is to his own faults or biases, I enjoyed kind of poking at him a little bit as far as asking him, what do you look like under that mask? He didn't like that. But, I'm still playing as a fairly obedient servant, I suppose. But yeah, he's entertaining. He's a unique character for sure compared to, other RPGs that I've played. I don't have anything against him at this point, so yeah, I like him. Alright, we're going to go ahead and pay the toll for Aster. Well, assuming I have enough money. I guess that's a question. You gained favor, and the party has lost 50 copper. Thank you, Fatebinder. You have done a great deal of good today. Aster bows dramatically. He turns back to the soldier. And you, brute, move aside and let me pass. Well, yeah, that's so interesting that Tunon embraced Kairos kind of preemptively, right? Um, the way that you phrase it, it was almost like doing it out of a sense of protection for his people, but I interpreted his own words as he's just a true believer. Like he just thinks Kairos and Kairos's peace is just the greatest thing ever. So of course we would implement it that way. But yeah, I'm interested to learn more of his background, if we will in fact learn any more of it. Will makes an exaggerated flourish and moves out of Aster's way. But of course. He raises an enormous hammer and stops Aster, pressing it against his chest. Though, merchant, do be sure to have some rings of your own for your trip back. I doubt your friend here will be around to pay your way through these lands twice. He smiles, moves his hammer, and gestures for Aster to continue. He got his people used to the law, so it was just a change of who was in charge. Could be both, though. Yeah, for sure. I can tell he's an interesting character because you can definitely interpret his actions in more than one way. And of course, just because he describes it as a particular way does not necessarily make it the truth. Um, maybe he saw Kairos and his army and either didn't want to put up a fight or just, you know, approached it from a really coldly logical perspective and decided that it would just be better to embrace Kairos, even if he doesn't necessarily believe, in him or have loyalty towards him. Uh, there's an interesting gray area. I mean, it's pretty dark gray, but it's still a gray matter, I guess you could say. Will returns to his position and looks you over, his former genial mood gone. So, a fate binder in our little corner of the world. Who'd have ever thought this would happen? He spits between his feet, then crushes it into the dirt with his boot. While I appreciate your help dealing with that merchant, I'm afraid I can't let you pass until you have spoken with our leader, Ray Toman. Personally, I thought he was crazy saying you'd be visiting Lethian's Crossing. Looks like I owe him a few rings. He shakes the pouch around his neck, making the rings inside jingle melodically. Not that there's a shortage of those out here. What can this humble servant of the Brotherhood do for you, Fatebinder? And don't ask me to let me through, because that isn't happening. Barrack loyalty. This ridiculous piece of mercenary offal requires a lesson in pain and obedience. Allow me to teach him. Thanks, but I can handle this myself. If you don't feel like paying the toll, I can point you back the way you came, if you need an idea of where to go, because I can't let you through. So my station means nothing? Out in the middle of nowhere? No, your station means about as much as a whore to a eunuch. He holds out his hand, palm up, and taps his finger in the middle of it. Money is what matters to us. Who is Ray Toman? Will barks out a short laugh. Now that's a question with 100 answers. Simple one? He's the current leader of the Bronze Brotherhood. If you want to know anything more, I suggest you go find him and talk to him. Current leader? Well, it's not like leader of the Bronze Brotherhood is a lifetime calling. Will stops, his brow wrinkling. Actually, that's exactly what it is. See, if someone wants to claim the current leader's authority for their own, they can do it at any time. Of course, that means a challenge of some sort, and that always ends with the death of one or more of the participants. Ray Tommen survived a night in the old walls. That was enough to prove to most of the Brotherhood that he was the right man for the job. Where can I find Ray Tommen? He points south. He's right there, inspecting the corpses of some of Kairos' soldiers. He's bound to be in a good mood right now. He winks at you. All those dead bodies must be heaven for him. The color drains from his face as soon as the words leave his lips. Please don't tell him I said that. Alright, let's speak with Raytoman. He laughs. I'll be counting the seconds until you return. Okay, more cutscene. Raytoman. While you are talking to Will, a striking man with a shock of bright blonde hair approaches, moving away from some men searching bodies of slain soldiers to the south. He watches you intently as he closes, his angular features pulling into a look of disdain. And here's the Fatebinder. He doesn't mask the displeasure in his voice. I knew we'd see you, I was just wondering when. One trip to Lethian's Crossing wasn't enough, Governor? He doesn't even mask the contempt in his voice. You had to return where no one asked you to come. Throwing me out of my home wasn't sufficient? Are you here to disrupt my life some more? He looks at his men, who stopped to watch the conversation. You aren't done. He flicks his hand at them and they return to their searching. It doesn't really matter why you're here. I don't care. I have more important things to worry about. In case you've forgotten me already, my name is Raytoman. I am First Brother, leader of the Bronze Brotherhood. Okay, what is he referring to here? Conquest decision. The Bronze Brotherhood were the original protectors of Lethian's Crossing, but they passed control to Kairos' forces and stayed as retainers. Over time, they proved too disorganized to keep the peace. You handed the settlement over to the Scarlet Chorus, letting fear and superior numbers do the work of subduing the local populace. The Brotherhood mercenaries consider this a slight on their lawful claim. Okay, glad we got a reminder of that. That's some key context, I would say. But I'm sure you already know that. I couldn't help but see you over here talking to Will and that traveling merchant. Only here for a moment and already sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, aren't you? I don't appreciate others invading my territory, Fatebinder. I told her she had to speak to you, Raytoman. She wanted through, but I told her no. If you don't give me the signal, the Fatebinder isn't getting into Lethian's Crossing. No one will invade your territory. It's a real bootlicker there. Raytoman stares at Will for a few moments, lips pursed, then continues as if Will never spoke. Speaking of which, what did Welby have to say? He looks north to where Welby stands, watching you both intently. Has she already started filling your mind with lies about me? She and I are going to have a chat soon. I can't have my first acts countermanding me at every turn. I know she wants my position. Watch yourself while you are a guest in my land. If you have come to stir up more trouble, we are well equipped and will not back down in the defense of what is rightfully ours. He sweeps his arm in front of him, gesturing to the surrounding countryside. Welby and I might not always agree, but that is one point we see eye to eye on. If you step out of line, we will both correct you. His eyes narrow and he leans toward you. You are not welcome here. No, I don't like him either. I'm looking forward to either directly murdering him or causing his murder to occur. Now tell me what you want or leave. You would do well to watch your tone when speaking to a Fatebinder. Raytoman laughs hollowly. I care not about Kairos' forces. I've already reaped the rewards of my loyalty, and I will not make that mistake again. You have taken my home, but I will have it back. I won't cower when you raise your voice against me, lapdog. This is not your land anymore. You have gained wrath. Such arrogance is the precursor to a mighty fall, Fatebinder. I might not currently have control of Lethian's Crossing, but we both know possessions are fleeting. Lethian's Crossing is my home, and your imagined control over our lives doesn't change that fact. Why are you charging travelers a toll to get through Ironhall Trail? I don't see how the affairs of the Brotherhood are your business, Fatebinder. Suffice it to say, the funds we receive from our tolls help us keep the lands around Lethian's Crossing safe. We are owed our dues, and we shall have them. Tell me about the Bronze Brotherhood. We are a humble group with noble, long-held traditions on the side of right and honor. Raytoman's voice fills with pride. If there is an injustice that needs to be rectified, we are called. Sounds like you're upstanding citizens. Yes, we are, Fatebinder. Raytoman's face breaks into a giant smile. I'm glad someone finally sees us for what we are. I'm tired of people calling us mercenaries and sellswords. So we get paid for what we do. We need to live. Okay, I need to get to Lathian's Crossing. Raytoman considers your request for a moment. If I let you through, you must promise to behave. I have enough problems dealing with everyone else. I don't need the hassle of keeping an eye on you too. So watch yourself. I might not currently have control of my city, but I have eyes everywhere. If you stir up trouble, I will know. So presumably, we can gain favor or wrath with the Bronze Brotherhood, even if there's not someone obviously watching us from that faction. He turns to Will. Let the Fatebinder through. Do nothing to delay or accost this party, or you'll answer to me. Will gives him a quick salute. Alright, tell me about Welby. Okay, Lethian's Crossing is unlocked. Great. He shoots a look to the north. I had such high hopes for her as my first acts. The continued success of the Brotherhood should be the single most important goal for anyone who is a member. She seems to have forgotten her place. She is not the head of this band. I am. If she doesn't stop overreaching, I will have to replace her with someone who knows how to obey. Why is Lethian's Crossing so important to the Bronze Brotherhood? We were asked to do a job and we did it. Then what happens? You throw us out of our home. He makes an emphatic gesture to the north, toward Lethian's Crossing. By all rights, that city is ours, and suddenly Kairos wants it. Well, I intend to get it back. I refuse to let this matter die. We protected the crossing for years, and even ensured Kairos' forces could do business here when Nerat asked us to. No, we did the job we were asked, and this land belongs to us. You said you don't do it for the money, but that's why you're fighting over Lethian's Crossing. I don't appreciate your tone or the implications of what you're saying, Fatebinder. Raytoman's eyes are hard and his voice is flat. This is a mere matter of principle. We performed a service and we were paid for that service. Don't try to glibly explain away a complex situation. This is our home. This is my home. I will have it, no one else. Now, if all you came here to do is insult me and mine, I would suggest you leave. Well, I don't want to attack him yet. I want to save first. You got Raytoman's permission to go, so go. We're going to save, or we did save. Let's go talk with Welby one more time. If we could just get the Bronze Brotherhood on our side in one fell swoop, that would be great. Fatebinder, you have returned. Why are you forcing travelers to pay a toll? Raytoman will say it's because it's what we're due, and part of me is inclined to agree with him. But if I were pressed, I would say his pride is hurt and he's lashing out. He can be such a child sometimes. She looks quickly at her guards. Just watch yourself around him. He hasn't seemed completely in control of his faculties lately. It's frightening to see what he's becoming. Did you not swear an oath to your leader, Sellsword? I knew that your loyalty was available to the highest bidder, but I never guessed that it extended into treachery. Raytoman's plans can doom our entire troop, and I intend to prevent that from happening. I am loyal, not blindly devoted to someone intent on marching me off a cliff's edge. Okay. Let's poke around down here a little bit more. So Raytoman's the only named NPC down here. Nothing else to loot, it looks like. So we're gonna save. I guess I'm curious if I can just attack him. Ah, okay. Let's ask what is so important about these bodies. They are some of Kairos' army who wandered too far from Lethian's Crossing. He spits on the closest body and makes an obscene gesture at it. I will sleep well when they are all dead and in the ground, the only place they're worthy to be. I mean, this guy is like completely against Kairos, it sounds like, so I feel like it's our duty to put him in his place. But if they choose to break themselves up like this, it will only make it easier for us when the Brotherhood makes our claim to what is rightfully ours. How do you plan to take Lethian's Crossing? Raytoman pulls his head back and looks at you askance. Why would you ask this? His voice drops to a whisper. Is Welby planning to undermine my strategy? What he just did is enough for execution, I assume. I mean, are you assuming that he killed these soldiers? It seems like a pretty strong implication, but I'm not 100% sure about it. Let's save one more time and... Oh, spitting on the body and looting them? That's fair. He is stealing from Kairos' forces. So let's go ahead and attack. I knew you couldn't be trusted, Cad. The forces of Kairos will always show their true face if pushed. Raytaman retreats, calling to his men as he runs. Guards, we have a snake in our midst. To arms! Okay, are we gonna have to kill all these people? If we do, we'll reload, because I don't want to just murder Welby, you know, and anyone else. Okay, well, let's just do some buffs. I think this is the first time we're using Ebb in combat. So we can use this ability once per rest. So I guess we should save this, but it looks pretty damn awesome. And we can freaking just drown an enemy, which is just horrifying. And we've got some grave magic, which will replenish health for us. And Barrack. Traps nearby enemies in twisted spires of rock. This also can only be used once per rest. We'll have to remember that. So we'll go ahead and just do our normal kind of taunt.
Will do.
So that's a raider. That's Will. Don't see Welby yet, but let's see what happens.
It'll take more than that.
Okay, what's happening? What's happening? Let's try to focus everybody if we can. Just an AoE health drain ability. That is amazing. I love it.
Consider it done.
God, that's so good. But Lantry is getting his butt kicked.
Ready? Good work! Get back here!
Everyone's running around. What's going on? She can teach you her magic. Okay, yeah, I haven't actually had any conversations with her yet, so I do need to remember to do that. Wow, while affected, the party's attacks will transfer health from enemies. Good lord. And that's once per encounter, so we can use that more frequently. Let's try that out.
Someone staunch my bleeding.
Someone staunch my bleeding. Lifesteal can be buffed with the blood magic. Okay, yeah, I will take a look at that. Actually, no, let's do thrust.
I got it.
Come and face my eye!
Lantry, why don't you... Let's see here. Let's do blur on our main character.
Consider it done.
So heavy.
Oh no, Barrick's down. Shit. Snooze some health to deal more damage so you get more back. Right. Because blood magic takes your health, but the spell itself restores health, so yeah, that sounds awesome. Okay, well let's revive Barrick if we can, and if we don't all get murdered in the process.
I'm injured. Take that.
Don't go rushing up.
Let's try. Oh, okay. It looks like we did kill that one guy just now.
By your command.
Wait!
Weird pause. Still just. Well, weird. Let's mark him.
Nice!
I think that missed. Yeah, that missed. That's frustrating. Alright, well, let's just do Palm Strike.
Right.
Nice. And let's light him on fire.
I'll hit you twice as hard next time.
Rage fire and poison. Oh, vicious. Nice. Okay, map is still showing enemies up here. This may all be for naught. If Welby is going to attack us, then I'm just going to reload because I don't want to go that route at this point. Maybe she'll be on our side or something. That would be nice. So that's an enemy.
This'll be.
Raider, Bruiser, Raider. So she's just gone. And in fact, Ray Toman is gone as well. Okay. Presumably this whole power struggle situation is going to be resolved differently, or later, I should say. So let's just reload. We'll put off this. This might upset her, though. Are you referring to Welby? Or are you saying me attacking everybody might upset her? Because yeah, I'm kind of wondering that as well. Okay. All right. Well, we can just move through, I guess. See what else is on the map here.
Can't do that. Sorry, I can't.
Okay, onward to Sunset Spire. Yeah, I'm not looking to antagonize every faction, you know, here, of course. This is cool. I'm looking at the overall map here, and there's quite a lot here. Spire, Old Walls entrance. There's a waterfalls coming from the top of this structure, apparently. This is our first, like, RPG-ass RPG town that we've actually encountered. Travel somewhere else real quick. Maybe I'll just go back to the trail we came from. Okay. Should I just head back now to town? Or is there something else I should be doing? Are you expecting an event to pop up of some sort? Maybe when we head back. Here we go. Okay. Encounter in Lethian's Crossing. Beside the road ahead, you espy a cart. The vehicle is abandoned with one wheel broken free of its axle. Several crates and sacks remain piled on the small wagon, while a pair of boxes rest in the grass beside it. Let's approach the cart. As you approach, you see that the cart boasts 4 wheels, or did before the loss of the back left one, and a long leather tack and harness for a beastman hauler. One of the crates that fell to the ground broke open along its edge, and fruits have spilled out onto the ground. Well, let's examine the cart before we just straight up loot it. You immediately notice the sundered hauler harness, likely the result of a bladed weapon. The broken wheel, too, appears less the consequence of accident than human endeavor. The spattering of dark, dried blood across the board cinches your suspicions that this cart came under attack, yet the goods remain. Let's prepare for attack. You draw your weapon and enter a defensive crouch, peering towards the tree line in expectation of an ambush. Surely enough, you make out flickers of movement through the brush. The initiative is yours, however. Presumably they see us and they know we're here. Let's ambush the ambushers. Leaving the car behind, you crash into the underbrush, driving your assault to the tiersmen in battered leathers and mismatched bronze, who mistakenly believe that they can get the drop on you. Okay. Don't worry about it. Okay, fair enough. Oh, that was it. Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, so now I was sure that we would have just won, but apparently not. Deft blade, deft blade. Okay, well, let's quick save. And I guess we'll just go attack this guy.
To battle!
Okay, let's try to taunt everybody around if we can. Yes, perfect. Ah, that worked really well this time. Okay, you are going to do our AoE attack. You're gonna do, alright, you already did our AoE buff, which is great. And you are going to, I guess, mark them? It's once per rest. Since we're just getting to town, we'll be able to rest soon again, so I really want to try these out, and I don't want to feel like these abilities are ones that I need to save for, you know, the most important encounter that never actually comes, so let's just try that. This will be fun, I think. I hope. Oh, look at that. Look at that rock that has them all stuck. That's awesome. I love it. Okay, Lantry, why don't you just, I don't know, attack him. we'll just keep doing what we're doing.
Unstoppable!
Anyone else want some of this?
This is the first time I'm feeling kind of powerful, you know? These abilities are so over the top that I'm really enjoying it.
I got it.
God, these screams are just horrifying. Yeah, I've used these a little bit, but yeah, good to know that I can just I don't actually have to worry about filling up my hotbar here. Okay, let's just do some more punching. You, I guess. Well, why don't you put some blur on Barrick? Why don't you just send? Well, wait, what do we have here? Let's drown a person.
I got it.
God, look at that. I wish I could rotate the camera, but I love that water globe effect.
This is useless. I should try something else.
That was a fun fight. Alright, what do we got? Whoops. Okay, heavy armor. Heavy armor. Okay, let's poke around, see if there's anything else that's interesting. We've got some corpses, or at least a corpse. A lot of expensive junk, which is kind of nice.
On it.
So we can't inspect the corpse for whatever that's worth. I'm totally fine if the only loot that we find is just expensive junk to sell, because it'd be nice to have a decent amount of money on hand. Yeah, lots of jewels and stuff, which I'm fine with. Don't see any secret caches of items. And yeah, let's continue on. I think I'm going to take a moment to look at my magic, especially that blood magic we were talking about just a second ago. And I have a new scroll to read as well, actually. Slightly reduces a spell's cooldown. That's fantastic. High lore, though, but... This is interesting. So... Oh, right. Right, okay, so this is an AoE ability, Phantom Bolt. Do we actually have Phantom or Grave Magic? I'm not sure what it's called, but doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. This reduces cooldown, which isn't too bad. Wonder what kind of spells we could give Barrack. We haven't really been giving him anything, but well, can't use that. I was thinking we could have him do like a passive buff on himself. So that's 15. It's 35 lore. Range. No, we don't want that. Yeah, that's not a big boost for him either. Let's take a look at Eb's spells again, or abilities, I guess. Grave Light. Oh, and we were going to talk to her about training, weren't we? She nods at your approach and offers a curt bow.
What is it you need?
I have some questions for you.
Ask away.
Let's speak of magic.
You know, I normally charge for this, but for you...
Eb smiles, awaiting your query. Ooh, this is some good lore stuff. I'm not sure I want to get into this just yet.
Ask away.
What do you know of arcane society?
I know a great deal of the mages of the Tiers, or at least their history. Most are dead now. I know a little less about the guilds sworn to Kairos' archons, but I try to make an effort to know my opposition.
Tell me about your own guild, the School of Tides. Our patron, occulted Jade Archon of Tides, is as old as the settlers of the Five Wives, and for nearly 5 centuries we are masters of the coasts and rivers. These days it's a school of one. You're looking at it. She thumps her chest with a bemused smirk. Okay. Why didn't your Archon fight in the war? About a year or so before the troops arrived in the Bastard Tier, occulted Jade proclaimed the age of the Tiers was over, and said she'd depart southwest into unknown, unending ocean rather than face Kairos. Most of my guildmates went along, choosing to risk the endless high seas rather than risk battle. A few of us, the militants, as our peaceful brethren dubbed us, chose to stand and fight. To my knowledge, I am the last of those who decided to stay and fight.
Ask away.
Tell me about yourself. Tell me about your name. Well, I was born Hazel Lavinia, but for most of my life, and I suppose for all the days after, I'm known and will be known as Eb. Tidecaster Eb, for those trying to be obsequious. I've also probably used a bunch of aliases that are going to haunt me at some point. Hazen, didn't realize you were nobility. I know, I dress myself and cook my own food. So misleading. Mother was a magistrate of Ardent. Father was Admiralty. It's mostly meaningless, though. Our lands are now the overlords. How'd you get the nickname? It's one of those not especially funny jokes that stuck long past its season. I wrote the word Eb incorrectly on a written examination. Master Fulvax started calling me Eb from then on. He claimed it fit me, said I was a cynical little shit that's always sees the ebb, never the flow. Let's change the subject. Did you always want to be a tidecaster? So, when I was a little girl, what I really wanted to be was a marine, the burly bitch at the prow of a trireme, first to crack some skulls when the ships rammed. You know, an honest living. Fortunately, the school sought me out before I got myself killed at sea. The School of Tides was looking for new blood, and my father was an admiral of Haven, so the school wanted me for the political connections. I got to spend my first couple years proving I actually belonged to the Tidecasters. That was fun. What did you do in the years before the war? My husband was born in Apex, and he left his prosperous lands to be with me. So when the nest was empty, it seemed right we leave my homeland and see his side of the Tiers. We had a year and a bit to ourselves before the war upturned things. We saw all of Apex. I took him along all my old sailing routes through Five Wives and Sunder. Those were good times. Then came the war, and I learned I would be one of the last Tearsmen to live free of Kairos. Ever since then, I think Oathbreaker has technically been my chosen profession. Tell me about your family. Trying to salt old wounds? They're all gone, but if you really care to know, I had a husband, 3 kids, siblings I didn't hate. Every family has its troubles. I was lucky that awkward and stilted dinner banter was the worst of it. Tell me about your husband. Palix Aldanos and I were married in 410. Aldanos was a Falksman of the Vandrian Guard back before they were starving partisans, but I saw him more as a carpenter. Woodworking was just a hobby of his, but my fondest memories are of him trying to shape something, and me making stupid jokes about the fitness of his materials. What became of him? He perished at the gates of judgment. I saw him die. I do not wish to discuss it, just know I've made my peace with it, and I'm glad I was with him on the field of battle when his time came. That's rough. I miss him, but it might have been for the best. Though he was only a few years older than me, my studies left me always a bit younger than him. The difference grew with time. Aldanos was slowing down, and half figured the Gates of Judgment would be his last battle. If anything, he got exactly the death he wanted, so in that sense, I'm very happy for him. Tell me about your children. This is going to be awkward. There were the twins, Drevenor and Lorma, then my youngest son, Akamas. Aldanos wanted more, but I was nearing the end of my trials at the School of Tides, and dueling with lethal magics is a terrible idea when with child. Drevenor and Lorma followed my husband's trade and took to the Falks. Akamas liked the heart more than people. Can't blame him one bit. I made sure my children could read, and I'm damn proud of that fact. Probably the only thing I did right. What of the twins? They died at the Gates of Judgment. Or at least Drevenor died, run through by a disfavored spear. Lorma was at the battle, but I don't know what became of her. My fear has been she was recruited by the Scarlet Chorus. Perhaps she has a new name, if she's still alive. Oh, it's going to be an unhappy reunion in our future, I think. What became of your youngest? Without Drevenor and Lorma, Akamas, well, he never quite... He took his own life in 430. Ebb shrugs, her eyes glancing far away. I should have put him on a trireme and shoved him out onto the high seas. He did not ask for birth, nor did I prepare him for the bitterness that life would offer. I'm very sorry for your loss. Spare me the sorrow. We've all lost family to Kairos. I just lost 2 in one battle. But even then, I'm hardly unique. What of the rest of your family? My family's Haven folk through and through. My mother prided herself on being descended from a Hazen Rabban, one of the founding magistrates of the city of Ardent. She looks to the side, mouth twisting in thought. Sad thing is, they died during the conquest, but that's not how I lost contact. I lost contact because magic and travel became my life. I had plenty of time to get to know them as an adult, but I simply missed it. But that one's my fault. I can't rightly blame Kairos for everything. Not so sure I believe any of this. You don't seem all that troubled.
Well, I'm an accomplished liar, but I've no need to spin a tale about any of this. My husband, most of my kids, my parents. Kairos' thugs took them all. If I don't seem broken up, it's because I'm not. I don't feel such things anymore.
You sign your magic with a great deal of anger.
I like to think of it more as well-refined rage. But amusing you noticed it all the same. Hate is akin to an acid, a poison of the heart that consumes most from within. And like any fluid, if you know how to hold it, you can apply it. It's a trick of the trade, I suppose. One's surges and dry spells of emotion are no different than the rhythms of the waves. There's a shared logic to taming both. Sadness, mania, rage. I suppose I have these things, but they're just humors in the blood to be pushed, needed, and restrained as the situation demands.
I get really sad thinking about her backstory. That's just supremely tragic. How did you fall in with the Vendrian Guard? What does it matter now that they're gone? They seemed the last hope for the Tears. And a nitty-shitting fuck of a chance is still more than no chance at all.
Ask away.
Okay, I think since we're already halfway through all this, I'm gonna go ahead and just walk through her entire set of conversations and then probably call it there for the night. And next time we'll explore Lethian's Crossing more. I feel like we just kind of tiptoed through a little bit of the game, but it's still been enjoyable. I have questions about the people of the tiers.
We all know how to swim, and we all know how to fight. Most Northmen are lucky to make half that boast. What would you like to know?
Yeah, I kind of figured that just poking around town would be a while, especially with me reading everything, so... Good. Okay, I'm curious about the people of the tiers. I think you'll find each of us thinks themselves a child of Haven, as in my case, or a child of Azure, child of Apex, or what have you. But I suppose we tiersmen have our shared customs. The most treasured of those customs used to be the pride of being free of Kairos' rule. I'm gonna skip some of this. Why didn't the Younger Realms stand united against Kairos? Are you trying to rub it in? Yes, the Younger Realms were defeated one at a time by the invaders. Maybe if I was Queen of the Tiers, that wouldn't happen. Well then, what would Queen Ebb have done? I would have taken the threat seriously the moment troops were stopped marching to the gates of judgment. Am I the only person whose mother mentioned that Kairos was a real threat? Opportunity, that's what killed us. Haven wanted to watch the bastard tier fall first. Apex was hoping Haven would fall, and Azure wanted Stalwart to be attacked first. Every realm of the tiers had some interest in watching their neighbors fail first, so we all held back our support until a year or so into the war. Too fucking late by then. Squabbling idiots. Tiersmen live with greater numbers of beastmen. What's that like? The beastmen of the tiers are hardier and smarter than their kin elsewhere, and fortunately we have lived together in relative harmony for some time. Make no mistake, life is difficult for most beastmen in the tiers, but compared to, say, how they are treated in the Northern Empire, I would like to think we tiersmen are a bit more modern and forward-thinking, even if just a bit. But I suppose I also take an overly optimistic view of our beastly cousins. I find their clumsy honesty endearing, and while no human will say nice things about my cooking, no beastman has ever said anything mean about my worst dishes. That's fair.
Aside from the ones you slew? Well, the Vendrian Guard were the most staunch opponents of Kairos. With their passing, the Overlord's rule is absolute. Well, aside from the local Archons being in a state of civil war.
Okay, that kind of clears up the status quo in this area. So, truly this brewing civil war is now a current threat to Kairos' peace.
Was there a particular group you wish to discuss?
1 second. Tell me about the Bronze Brotherhood.
The Bronze Brotherhood is one of the most feared and famous of the Free City mercenary companies. They serve the highest bidder, and during the war, that was Kairos. Most of the Brotherhood perished in the war, but a handful, the crew hired to work at Lethian's Crossing. They got to babysit the Forgebound and survived the last few years with minor losses. The band is too small to be a serious threat to the disfavored or the chorus, but they are scourge-worshipping berserks that will adopt any enemy for the right price. Maybe even Kairos.
I wonder if, depending on your choices in the game, if the Bronze Brotherhood could be recruited by either the disfavored or the chorus in their civil war.
The Unbroken is the name of the military of the now fallen realm of Stalwart. Every citizen of Stalwart was trained to fight, and all were expected to answer the rallying cry of the Regents, the ruling small council of the realm. A decade ago, Stalwart was the ass end of jokes tiersmen would tell each other. The people of Stalwart are obnoxiously proud of a long history of being invaded, but never losing. The disfavored put an end to their vaunted record of victory. The Unbroken still persist, albeit marginally so. The disfavored withdrew after the Edict of Storms began shredding the landscape. Their holdfast of Sentinel Stand Keep was never taken, and the citizen army, though scattered, could still be rallied.
Okay, good to know. The Unbroken are, in fact, still unbroken.
Kairos' war was disastrous to the human realm of Azure, but a stroke of good luck for the numerous beastmen that toiled in Azure's endless wheat fields. With the masters all dead, the serfs have been set free. The Stonestalkers are a tribe born from these newly freed beasts. I imagine they would never bow to Kairos or the Archons. Too many generations have been enslaved. I'd wager anything they'll die before they ever bow.
I feel like the Beastman backstory for your character, if I had chosen that, would have been a good backstory if I had wanted to kind of rebel against Kairos. You know, if I really sympathize with the rebels. At least based on this discussion.
Beastmen understand strength and leadership, but it's always in the concrete sense. I can't pretend to know how they think, but I could never imagine them accepting an absent Prima. A distant ruler they can't see or smell seems a bit too abstract.
Are there other remnants of the Younger Realms that could still rise against Kairos?
Several sages came to our aid during the Second Battle of Vendrian's Well. I at first thought they meant to kill me, but instead they put their lives on the line for us.
Not that much, surprisingly. Okay, fair enough.
They spoke of others in their guild braving the Edict of Fire to salvage lore from the burning library. Though I may find them untrustworthy, it must be said that the sages have a certain fearlessness toward the Overlord. Perhaps that could be kindled further.
Well, we don't want to kindle that, I don't think.
Historically speaking, an alliance with the School of Ink and Quill is just asking to have your efforts stolen and your goals undermined. Mark my words, some things never change.
Would you rather they be our enemies?
Well, perhaps we can shove them in front of the enemy. And the ones that volunteered at Vendrian's Well weren't all bad.
Okay. What can you tell me about the different nations of the tiers? Okay, I'm not going to read this stuff.
Ask away.
What can you tell me of the Archons and the tiers?
Not entirely sure. Which is to say, there was a time I studied my enemy in great detail, but I've recently come to learn that much of my information was little more than lies and misdirection.
What of the voices of Narat? The Archon of Secrets lives up to his name. If he weren't so loathsome a beast, I'd half admire his mastery of the magical arts. They say he knows all the sigils lost to history, but I've also heard it said all that stolen knowledge is why he speaks in his different voices. But in truth, I'm learning that most of what I know is just lies and misdirection. Though I guess he'd be a poor Archon of Secrets if I had my facts straight. What do you know of Graven Ash? Before the conquest, I assumed Graven Ash a harmless old man, an Archon in name only past his prime. I could not have been more wrong. Many have underestimated the great general by his age. Few of them have made the mistake twice. Ash is a remarkable general. He's led his tiny band of disfavored on a nearly unstoppable rampage of the tiers, and he does not seem to win his wars with obvious displays of mystic powers, but with old-fashioned leadership and good soldiers. A year or so back, under a blue flag talk with the commander, I was told that the Archon knows the names of every soldier under his command, living and dead. The way the disfavored speak of Ash, you'd think he raised each of them from the cradle. Know anything of Kieran? Enough. She inhales sharply, folding her arms with a scowl. There's clearly a story here. I'd like to hear it. A few years back, the remaining Elder Tidecasters met Kieran in battle. Tall as 10 men, all but invincible, and I thought nothing could stop us if we stood together. Whatever, it's old history. So everyone died except you. Color me surprised? I mean, that's a vaguely dickish thing to say. let's just change the subject.
Not entirely sure.
What do you know?
Which is to say,
I'm sure there may be younger Archons in the historical records, but Siren is certainly an unusually powerful child. It's said half of the Scarlet Chorus was recruited by Siren's persuasive song, and I not doubt it. I also know the voices of Narat put a shackle on her power. Probably feared she'd become the favorite of the rabble.
ask away.
Alright, travel companions. What do you make of Barrick?
My one concern with Barrick is that he's still loyal to Graven Ash and not to you. Barrick seems steadfast, faithful, and dependable. But if it comes down to you versus Graven Ash, therein lies the test.
If it weren't a tactical asset, it'd be fun to try and pry him out of that suit. Curious to see if his midsection is as strong, firm, and taut as I've imagined it should be. Ugh. What are your thoughts on Verse?
We should consider ourselves fortunate that one of the most deadly members of the Scarlet Furies considers you a suitable gang leader. That said, I think her involvement with you is entirely suspect. I would wager good money the voices of Narat is listening through her, or perhaps seeing what she sees.
I hadn't considered that, and that's kind of scary.
If I were you, I would keep a close eye on Verse. If she wanted to kill you, she could have done it already. But I can't help shake the feeling that she's part of some long ploy with the Archon of Secrets.
What's your take on Landry?
Probably the only word thief I haven't wanted to dismember. Him? I'd merely play with an ice knife.
Yikes. The Wandering Scholar thing seems an act. It's always an act with the sages, always pretending to know less than they really do. I'm sure he's got 1,000 reasons for why he's not like them or more trustworthy than the rest, but I know his type, and so I don't trust him. Oh, that's high praise coming from you. I'm going to take this staff and repeatedly jam it into your backside until you prolapse. Oh, that's very specific. Ah, just like that. Balance is restored to all known existence. You had me worried there. I like Elantry a lot.
Ask away. What is it you need?
Well, let's discuss matters at hand.
I have a great deal of ambivalence regarding the Scarlet Chorus. Narat is worse than Kairos, yet many in the chorus were my countrymen. Most of them fighting because they will suffer worse indignities if they do not. So I must ask, what is your goal behind working with the voices of Narat?
Oh shit. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a good answer. It's a means to destroy the disfavored. Yeah, you're probably right. The glare has been doing good work for us in this game. So let's just continue.
I'm not
with
sure I
that.
find your silence on this matter of much comfort. I trust you don't wish a genuine alliance with that thing. There are much better ways to get us all killed.
Okay. So no magic training yet, but I'm sure we'll get it soon enough. Alright, so we made it to Lethian's Crossing. We've met a new faction, the Bronze Brotherhood, and we are primed to poke around all over this town, which is usually my favorite part of an RPG, when you get to a big town and can explore and go to all the shops and talk to people and hopefully get quests and stuff. So I'm looking forward to continuing. So I suspect the next time I will be streaming this game is this weekend. I don't know if it'll be Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, but I would imagine one of those days. And yeah, I'll put the VOD of this up on YouTube. It should stay on Twitch for the next couple weeks, I think, but it'll be on YouTube as well. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else coming up. I will probably stream some more Final Fantasy as well. That's a little easier for me to stream during the week. mostly mentally speaking. I don't have to think as much and read as much, but yeah. Yeah, no, I can't wait to continue this either. I've found it a little hard to um, make the time to stream it. I do really want to stream this whole playthrough, but it does require a bit of time, and so I'm just, with the state of the world and everything going on, I'm not always emotionally ready to stream this in particular. But I'm gonna stick with it, and we'll keep continuing our journey onward. So. Yeah, I wasn't sure when I started this, would I read everything, would I read some stuff, but I actually enjoy reading everything and treating it kind of like an audiobook experience, both for myself and for people watching. But now I also feel like I need to stick with it, so it's just a matter of making the time to do so and being in the right headspace for it. So I think right now my goal, kind of, and this is uh, not set in stone per se, but I want to try to stream this at least twice a week. Maybe one day during the week and one day on the weekend, and that way I'll be making steady progress through this and won't get too far behind. Because my fear is that if I wait too long to stream or between streams of this, I'll find excuses to just put it off. So I'm going to try to avoid that, and Den, you come in every stream is definitely an incentive to continue. So thank you. And yeah, I think that's all I got. So let me pull this up here. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, have a great night, have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you this weekend, and we will continue as much as we can. Have a great night. I'll see you when I see you.